What is the number one thing you can do as a seller to preserve as much of your sales price as possible? Hi, I'm Michele from Compass. I have been doing this just a little bit, and I have actually story time today on the tale of two homes, talking about what the seller could have done differently. Ironically, it was the same seller. We did it on one house, we didn't do it on the other, and I can just tell you the difference was day and night. Hey, if you like my content, would you mind just hitting that little subscribe bell, sharing my content, even making a comment, or make a email or text and make an appointment with me to talk about selling your home? Okay, so the number one thing a seller can do to really make sure at the end of the sale, packing up, driving away from that house, that you know you actually got as much for that house that you possibly could, is to do inspection. Fill out the disclosures, get any reports and or bids, front load that buyer with as much information as you can. When a buyer in Northern California, the Bay Area, Santa Cruz County, starts looking into properties, do you know what they do? They email me and they call me and they say, hey, can you get me the disclosures? And I'm like, yeah. People ask for them all the time. Often I don't read them anymore unless that buyer has real interest. If they say, we're interested in this property, can you review the disclosures? I'm on it. But they get given those just right up front. And often buyers look at the disclosures and don't go visit the property, which I discourage. But those disclosures are so key, and buyers are so reliant on them and they expect them. It's really something you need to consider. But as a seller, you need to understand why it's so important to your bottom line, not theirs. And I think a lot of sellers decide that they don't want to do inspections or, reports, bids for buyers, because it's like, well, they're going to have the house. Why do I care what they're going to do with it? And, well, here's why you need to care. First, number one, as I just mentioned, buyers will be more interested in your property with the inspections and disclosures up front. Number two, you want to be the information provider. It's kind of controlling the narrative, really, right? You are providing all this information and saying, this is everything I know about the property. And as in Santa Cruz County, all of our properties, all the way up to, the over $3 million properties, always have something that needs to be looked at, kept in the back of your mind, that it needs to be fixed at some point or even fixed immediately. Every house needs something, and that buyer will have all that information going in and will definitely not come back to you later and say, well, you didn't tell me. But the real reason you want to provide all that information to a buyer is because you don't want them to bring it to you. Because when they bring it to you, they have a bid and they add zeros to it. They say, oh, the deck needs to be repaired, and we talked to a contractor. It needs to be replaced. So that, maybe $3,000 or $4,000 fix is now a $40,000 replacement. See what I mean? But if you have somebody who comes out, licensed contractor that comes out and says, it needs some work, you could get another 10 years out of it if you did this. There's a roofer I use in town, and he will come out and do an inspection. Not he, his company will come out and do an inspection, and they'll say, look, this roof is really, it does need to be replaced. But buyer and seller, hey, I'm going to do this report and tell you this is how you can get a few more years out of it. Or even just say, these items need to be repaired, and it's actually fine. Often it's just, a few fixes. But you want to be the information provider. You want to keep surprises to a minimum. Surprises are, again, where you get zeros added on to the cost of the item or zeros taken off your bottom line. The disclosures are a way to engage buyers. Buyers often are first-time home buyers or maybe even second-time home buyers, but they are nervous about things happening later they weren't aware of. Impossible to know everything that's going to go wrong with a house. Or I know that we did the repairs and that storm comes through and we're good. And, we've all had a heater looked at. Unfortunately, I have, and I think it was like 2018, I had my furnace looked at and they actually broke something. And so I was out without a furnace, but I was having it maintained like I'm supposed to. But if I was doing disclosures, I would say, hey, I had my heater fixed and I had the filter replaced. Consequently, I have not had my heater looked at since then because, that kind of scarred me a little bit. If the buyer brings a concern to you and says, okay, well, we found out that this needs to be fixed. The foundation is actually much worse than it looks. And we want $90,000 off, almost $100,000 off. And you're like, what? No, I'm not. No, foundation is good enough. And I've lived here this long and I made it through an earthquake. No. Okay, fine. You tell that buyer, nope, go pound sand. We're not doing it. We go back on the market. We hit the trail like we always do. But why did it fall through will be the question on everybody's minds and everybody's lips on those open houses and those broker tours. Now, I'm not saying don't be afraid of falling through. I had one fall through this year and we did just fine. We went back on the market for like 2 hours, got another offer. I mean, it was a very cute little property. Not all properties will be afforded that grace. So here's a house that I had listed and it was on the west side. I talked the seller into, I didn't have to work really hard. I said, hey, we have a program that you can borrow against the equity of the home and we'll paint it and we'll clean it up and we'll clean the yard and we'll put everything in the garage and we'll be ready to go. It took us about 2 months to get all the work done. It took a while, but you can see it. It looks pretty cute, right? We had an offer within 9 days, only really 1 week cycle of marketing. And we got a buyer. We allowed them to have a physical contingency. So we provided inspections, disclosures. We had a bid for the sewer work that we were not going to do. We had it all laid out. That buyer asked for a few days to check out the property with their own contractor. Sure. They said, you know what? It's fine. We're going to close it. It was a cash sale. We actually all said and done in about 18 days. Easy peasy, right? They're still living there. Everything's great. Yay. Now the house next door, should I point here or there? I wonder where I'm going to have it. The house next door, we didn't do anything on it. They didn't want me to. It was pulling teeth to get it cleaned. I actually cleaned it. I had a cleaner come in and clean it. Did a bunch of yard work on it myself. We had a hauler come in and take some stuff out. No inspections, minimal disclosures, no reports. That took all of about a year plus to sell that home. And the investors came for it, right? Because they do. I don't want to say bottom feeders like in a bad way, but to be an investor and make money, you want to get the bottom. You want to get the bottom. So they saw the condition of that home and they kept circling around and saying, oh, but we want it for this price. And I said, nope, we're holding fast till we get the price we want. Hung in there. So we got an investor and they made an offer on the house. And, they did their inspections. They had their contractor come through it and they said, you know what? It's really not that bad. We're actually pretty impressed. We're going to move along. 2 days later, they came back and said they wanted $110,000 off. And my seller said, no. I said no. And they thought about it. It doesn't matter. I'm not the owner, right? But I had told them, no, this isn't going to work. They turned around and said, you know what? We're just going to do it. We do kind of want this house. But the house next door, they came back and asked for money off because I had 3 right on the same street. And I did another fixer-upper with no disclosures, no inspections or reports in Aptos in the early spring of 2024. And that buyer came back and asked for $90,000 off. So the big takeaway is get those inspections, disclosures, and reports, maybe even some bids up front. Let the buyer know. No surprises. Surprises cost you money. We're not worried about the buyer at this point. We're worried about preserving your bottom line. Surprises cost money. It costs money to go back on the market. Often, homes that it's called fall through escrow. If they fall through and they go back on, you can see them on the multiple listing service or even on Zillow. It'll show that, a little arrow, the price is coming down. Not all price reductions are based on the seller deciding to lower the price. The price is coming down even in Zillow's evaluation because that property has been on for a long time or it's coming on and off the market. There's a lot of other elements out there on a listing that can kind of ding your bottom line. So you want to make sure you give the buyer as much about the property as you can, disclosures, reports, inspections. If you even just want a sample if you're a seller and you want to know what you're looking at, or have me come out and take a look, I can give you a rundown right away, just going through a property and helping you understand. Often I can see without even really, checking under the hood as it were, of what you can expect that a buyer is going to think about that property. I work with a lot of buyers. I get a lot of comments about properties and I know what concerns them. So I hope that helps you. Again, please like, subscribe, share, follow me on my socials and set up an appointment with me. I'd love to hear from you. I've been having a lot of people reach out. It's kind of nice. All right. Talk to you soon. Bye.